Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. Here we are at the south end of Pyramid Lake. It's a really interesting place with a lot of history, and we're going to go over that. This is Paiute land, and there's a myth or legend about water babies, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But first, I want to just tell you a little bit about how to get here. This lake is about 30 miles north of Reno, Nevada, and it's accessible from Reno on Highway 445, which is going to spit you out about halfway up the lake. But if you want to get to the south end, you can either just take Highway 46 south as I did, or you can also, if you're coming from the east, you can come in from Fernley and you can come straight up 446 and that'll get you here. The drive in on 445, the way I came in, is absolutely gorgeous, and you're going to go over a pass and you're going to eventually get to a lookout and you get a really nice view of the lake from above. That's a great place to stop and just read about it a little bit. And this 446 that I'm on now, I guess it's also called the Ronald Smith Highway. And there's a memorial here or something. And once again, this is Paiute land. Us regular folk are allowed on the west shore of the lake, and there's camping there. And on the east shore is kind of sacred land, and it's Paiute land, so we're not allowed to go over there. This is an interesting area because it used to be called Lahontan Lake, and that lake was huge. It was about 50 times larger than this lake, and it just covered all these various valleys around here. And the reason Pyramid Lake is still here is it was one of the deeper lakes. It's still about 500 feet deep, and it's also as big as Lake Tahoe. Now, in the old days, Lake Lahontan was so large, it covered 8,500 square miles, which is really incredible. And it was about, I think, about 400 feet higher. So if you look at the cliffs surrounding the lake, it's not so great right here, but there are places where you can see the water line way up there. It's about 400 feet higher. And you'll also see these tufas around the lake because these were underwater and they're calcium carbonate or whatever they are. And the lake was named after a rock over there, pyramid shaped, and that's why it's called Pyramid Lake. And then there's another island next to it, which is quite a larger island. The other thing that Pyramid Lake is known for is the fishing. There's a species of trout called the Lahontan trout. It's a subspecies of the cutthroat trout. And these things can be huge. The largest one that's ever been caught here, I think, is 40 pounds, which is insanely large. It's not uncommon nowadays to catch a trout that's 5 pounds up to even 20 pounds. It's pretty incredible. So it's known as a great fishing location. As I said, it's about the same size as Lake Tahoe, and there's a lot of boating in the summer. It's pretty quiet now. It's September, mid-September right now. So it's much quieter now. I don't see any boats out there. So it's sort of considered a less bougie, or the poor man's Lake Tahoe, if you will. It's the same size, same kind of activities, fishing, boating, swimming, whatever. And it's a beautiful area. So it's a nice alternative to Lake Tahoe if you're tired of the crowds. Let me talk a little bit about the legend of the water babies. So apparently, when you're camping at nighttime, it's not uncommon to hear babies crying. And if you go down to the lake to check it out, you may never come back. That's the legend. And some say it's from a Paiute tradition, which is said to involve the offspring of the Paiute Indians, and if they had a child that they thought maybe wasn't going to be strong enough to make it in the rough world or had some sort of handicap, they would just go down there and throw that child in the water, and if it could swim, then it would survive, otherwise it would die. So apparently there was a lot of dead children that were put in the lake, and that was kind of where the legend comes from. So if you believe in that kind of stuff, I'm not really much of a believer. In fact, I think the whole Sasquatch thing is a complete hoax. It's absurd that they've never found any bones or any remains, but people like to believe in that. And then there's that old film that people say is real, and I think it's just a dude in a gorilla suit. But anyway, that's another topic. I don't disrespect people who believe in that stuff. I'm just telling you my opinion on it. The other thing that's really weird, the other legend is really strange, is that there have been people gone out on boats on the lake and just disappeared. And they've later found the boats capsized, maybe, or maybe not. Maybe the boats have sunk, but they disappear, which isn't so uncommon. But the weird thing is it is said that they can have these huge waves that'll capsize a boat, even if it's not windy out here. It commonly is very windy out here, but there's apparently these rogue waves that come along for no reason and capsize boats. And then the legend is that the remains of the people who die in this lake end up in Lake Tahoe, which is a couple 3,000 feet higher than here. So it's basically impossible for them to get back up the grade to Lake Tahoe. It's also said that there's a lot of underground caves where water can go, and it's kind of freaky, but it's possible that somehow the water could back up to Lake Tahoe. The other thing I should mention is this lake is actually salty. It's not very salty. It's not like the ocean. It's not like Mono Lake, for example. It's just slightly salty. So the cutthroat fish can live in here just fine, but there's just a hint of salt in it. And the reason for that, of course, is there's no outlet to this lake. So Lake Tahoe fills this lake. Lake Tahoe flows down the Truckee River down along I-80, and there's a trail along the I-80 called the Pyramid Trail, and it's in reference to the fact that the water ends up here. So the water from Lake Tahoe that drains out on the Truckee River drains out, ends up here, and it never leaves here. It just evaporates. And when we talk about the fact that the water was 400 feet higher and Lake Lahontan was 50 times larger than this lake in the old days, the reason for that is not because of changes in drainage. It's just the change in the ambient temperature, because Lake Lahontan goes back to the Pleistocene age, which is like from 2.6 million years ago till about 9,700 years ago, I think. And I think Lahontan Lake peaked at about 12,700 years ago, and that's what we call the Ice Age. And the scientists say that the reason Lahontan Lake was here is because the flow from the Truckee River was the same then as it is now, but there was just less evaporation because the climate was colder. So the warmer climate caused more evaporation, so those more shallow valleys of Lahontan Lake eventually evaporated and only left the deeper lakes. Then there's this one and one other one, I think it's maybe called Walker Lake, and those are the only two lakes remaining, and those are still here because they're deeper and they don't evaporate. When we think about the Black Rock Desert, where Burning Man is, it's known as a playa. It's basically an old lake bottom, and that used to be part of Lake Lahontan. So there's a lot of places around here in the Black Rock Desert area where the water has evaporated and left a playa. But sometimes it's just left valleys, but sometimes it's a playa as well. So that's the lore and the history of the lake. So let's go explore. So the first thing you want to do is head to the town of Sutcliffe, which is on the middle of the west shore. And from the highway 445, you're going to turn in to Sutcliffe and head for the ranger station. And there you can buy a permit to camp and you have day use. The camping permit is unbelievably $32. I had heard that it was $16, but I guess that was a while ago. Now it's $32 for one night. And it's basically remote camping with no facilities. Some places have a picnic table and an outhouse, but that's it. There's no water. So it's not a great deal, but it's a privilege to camp here along the lake. This is the office here where you buy your permit. And I dealt with a very nice lady there. Now, I think this is the very first campsite along the lake, and it's called Popcorn Rock, if I'm not mistaken. And that sounds right because that outcropping of rocks over there looks to be what you might call Popcorn Rock. And apparently there's a little fire down here or something. And these picnic tables are for the campers, obviously. Oh, I see. This is where the fire was. You can see it. Somebody decided to burn the table, which is pretty absurd. And I think you can camp anywhere down here. You can camp along the picnic tables, or you can camp down near the water. You could obviously launch a boat here. The rules say they want you 100 feet from the water. I don't know if they really care about it, but if you are close to the water, you want to be clean and not polluted, of course. There's another nice view of the lake and Popcorn Rock. And this right here is called the Popcorn Binocular Viewing Site. So apparently you can't camp down here, but you can come down here and have a look. So we'll check it out briefly. Okay, I see why they call it Popcorn Binocular Viewing Site, because they provide you this little binoculars. In the distance there, you can see the rock where we were just at, and we drove just north to the smaller rock that you could see from our last viewpoint. And then from here we get a really nice view of this bay. Right now we're cruising by Cattle Guard Beach, which is the next camping area. Now there's no outhouse here, but I do believe it is a camping area, and there's you can see some off-road little roads through there. They look pretty accessible and dry. And there's a sign that says open range. And there are a lot of these little kiosks along here where you can stop and picnic. And this one I don't believe is a campground, but it's just a kind of a roadside picnic area. Okay, cruising along here, you can see this nice beach area down there. There's a sign down there. That one actually looks pretty nice. I've also noticed that along here there's a lot of roads, so you can drive on dirt roads, and I think you can pretty much camp anywhere. But this one actually looks really nice. You might want to cruise down there just to check it out. And there is an outhouse here, which you can see. I'm going to assume that they want you to camp up by the kiosks with the tables and not down by the beach. This is called Blockhouse Beach. Looks really nice. Okay, we're swinging around on the beach here, Blockhouse Beach. This is amazing. It's really pretty. Now, I think you can camp anywhere as long as you're 100 feet from the water. So that would mean that even though the kiosk and the bathroom are up higher, I think you could just plop yourself right here. And this is a really pretty spot. I'll circle around. Keep ramp clear. Yeah, this is a nice spot. I guess you can launch a boat here. And it's a little sandy, but I had to use four-wheel drive back there when I got out of that popcorn binocular lookout. That was pretty steep, but this is just two-wheel drive, and it's a little bit sandy, but it's firm and smooth, so you could probably drive any car down here. This is the Blockhouse campground still. Just showing you the outhouse. And here are the kiosks where you can, I think what they want you to do is camp up here. And I don't mind being up a little higher. You get a better view of the lake. So I'll probably do that a little bit later in the day. Okay, so now I'm driving on one of those roads that I was talking about that runs, it seems like it runs along the entire length of the lake. And the Highway 446 is just 100 feet to my left. So we're just driving on one of these roads, and you can see there's a, dead ahead, there's a beautiful beach there. Ooh, there's a little bit of a steep part. I'm gonna just get a little bit of momentum, see if I can make it up here without four-wheel drive. Oh yeah. And then we're right back on the road. Yowza. Okay, so the next campsite is called Rawhide. It has bathrooms, so it's obviously a designated campsite. But this one also has a nice beach down to the right. If you look down there, it's pretty nice. But it's nice being up high here above them. This one has porta potties. You can see the road continues on. And I think you're getting a feel for these campgrounds. Apparently fireworks are allowed here. And then the sign, you can see tribal permits required per vehicle. No glass or wood pallets. Violators cited. So anyway, you're getting the feel of these campsites. There's a lot of them. And I don't think I want to make a video on each one. So I think we're just going to kind of cruise along maybe and just roll past them and see them from the road and not actually visit each of them, if you don't mind. Okay, to the right, you can see another beautiful outcropping and beach area. And then up ahead on the right, you can see some outhouses. So I think that's going to be our next camping area. And if I've got my bearings correct, that's going to be called Sand Hole. Just a couple of outhouses. Doesn't have any of the kiosks, but that's a beautiful area to camp. And then the next one is called Wino Beach. Let's see if this one has a name written on it. I don't know if it does. It does. And this indeed is Wino Beach. My assumptions are correct. All right, so this is Wino Beach, and I have to say this is a pretty cool spot. I think I forgot to mention that you have to get a permit to camp here. So you want to visit the Ranger Center, and that's where you get your camping permit, and that's required. And I heard in the old days it was $16 to camp, but I paid $32. And when I asked her about it, she said that must have been a long time ago because it's been $32 for quite some time. And the other thing she said, she didn't say anything about having to camp in the designated spots. She simply said, make sure that you camp 100 feet from water. So I think you could camp in a place like this. And this is some soft sand, so I'm going to be a little bit careful here. I think it's okay though. Yeah, I'm not slipping out. You see the birds down by the water. Yeah, this is a very nice spot. So this is called Wino Beach. Everything seemed okay, and then I drove across some soft sand and got stuck. Wow, this is obviously a major oopsie on my part. I had no idea what I was getting into here. And so I'm gonna dig out the tire here and put down my traction bars. And hopefully I can get myself out of here. Seems like it's mostly the rear that's the problem. I just veered off the harder area right behind me there. I'll show it to you. That's the harder area right there over to my right. I needed to stay on that. I drove in on that and it's just fine. And down here it's softer. So I'll show you the other side. You can look behind the van there and you can see that both my rears are pretty sunk. And that front one probably needs to be dug out a little bit so I can get some momentum, but you can see this. These rear ones are here. I didn't want to spin anymore until I get my traction bars down. There is some harder stuff below. Let's see how this goes. I got some random footage of kind of the prep here. I thought the camera was off, but it was on. And then when I went to drive out, I discovered that the camera was actually off, so I didn't get the footage of driving out. But based on what you see here, I just put it in drive and drove right out, and it was actually no problem. I mean, I had to kind of floor it in low range and whatnot, but it worked out just fine. I was already thinking about how terrible it would be to have to call a rescue to have myself towed out. Okay, I'm not going to lie. I'm feeling pretty lucky right now. This is the harder stuff. And, of course, I drove quite a way because I wanted to get off it. These are my tracks here. And you can see as I look at it now, it's pretty obvious that there's just a really severe soft spot there. And as we come up, you'll see my traction bars there. So what I did is I dug out the rears, which seemed to be the worst. The front are right here. And I dug a little pit so the front wheels could roll. And then I made sure I shoved the traction bars well underneath the rear tires so they would catch, and they did the job. I'm feeling pretty stupid right now, but at least I feel like I was prepared. I had the traction bars, which I have never used before until today, and of course I had the shovel, and those were the two essential tools. But I started having visions of having to call somebody to give me a yank, but that's not necessary, thankfully. So there's some excitement for the day, but anyway, I was thinking this is such a pretty spot right here, and I'm hungry, so I'm just going to hang out here on the harder surface over there where the van is and have some lunch. Okay, folks, well, today's lesson is pretty obvious. There's places down here where you can drive, and there's places down here where you shouldn't drive. The funny thing is when I was talking to the woman in the ranger station, I asked her where the better camping spots were, and she said she'd never been down this way. I asked her why, and she said, well, I have a fear of getting stuck. Now I know what she was talking about. These things kind of fit together, and that makes them able to fit in my little cubby here. There we go. Oh. All right, for lunch here, I'm just enjoying this little spinach feta ricotta. It's called a flatbread, but it's kind of a little pizzetta kind of thing. It's pretty good. Just enjoying the view right here. It's quite nice. The birds. Okay, so this next one is called Indian Head, I believe. It's likely due to that rock outcropping that you see there. As you can see, there are some picnic tables out here, so presumably you can camp out here. There's no outhouse, but there's definitely room to camp. This wouldn't be a bad spot. Those rock outcroppings are called tufas, and those are, as I said, I think calcium carbonate. And that means that the lake level was far above that at one time, as these form inside a lake when the water burbles up, warmer water burbles up, cools off in the lake, and then solidifies. So this one was quite a long drive in, but it's pretty cool out here. Definitely more remote. Now as we head back in, you can see the tufas and the inland mountains, clouds. It's just a very pretty day. It's getting a little bit warm, but it's still only like 70 degrees out there. But it's very sunny and we're at some altitude, so it feels warm. Okay, so this one is called Tamaracks. And this is the second to the last one before we get back to the junction of Highway 445. And the final one is called Washout. So all these places I'm giving names are listed as campgrounds on the sheet. I'll show you that sheet once again with all the campgrounds, and the blue triangles are places where you can camp, and then the red round dots are places where you are not allowed to camp. What's interesting is in mid-September now, I've not seen anyone else camping yet. Okay folks, so this is where 446 comes back into 445. And so this is the way I came in before. So we've now explored the southern part of the lake. And the last campground along here, it's right near the junction. I think it's right over here to the right somewhere. I don't see a road for it yet. Well, there's one right there. Is that one? Yeah, that's a road. That's a road right in there. And that one is called Washout. So now we're on the northern part of the lake, and we're just coming up to the junction right now. You can see the sign there. It says N446, and Sparks is to the left and Sutcliffe is to the right. And that's the town where the ranger station is, so you can get your pass there. And there's another sign that shows north and south on 445. So we'll make the appropriate stop here. And there is no traffic coming. And you can see this is designated as a scenic byway for obvious reasons. Okay, there's a sign for the marina. This is another way in. So we're on the north end of town, and we're just heading out of town. There's a little bit of a hill here, and we'll probably get another view as we come up on this hill of the lake. And oh, there's the RV park down there to the right. The water tank probably for the town or something. Oh yeah, we're gaining some elevation above the lake. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing, but we'll find out. Camping up here looks like it might be pretty good, so let's check it out. Okay, this here is called Separator Beach. And when I talked to the woman who I got the camping permit from, she said that this is one of her favorites, so it's possible I could stop here if it's nice, but we'll check it out just for yucks and giggles. Here is a better view of the tufa, and if you look carefully you can see the road down there, so you can drive. I'm on the upper one, there's the lower one. I think it goes around the tufa and then down to the beach, and then you can see over there those two outhouses way in the distance, in the middle of the frame, and that's where we were just a minute ago. And this is the lower road going in, and you can see the main highway there. And then I'm going to zoom in a little bit more on this water line I've been talking about, so maybe you can get a better view of it. But if you look up on that hill carefully, you can see kind of a line about 2/3 the way up or so. And I believe that's the old water line. As we get toward the right end of that cliff there, you can see that really dark area down from the summit, and that's a better view of the water line. I didn't necessarily expect to see cows here at Separator Beach, but here they are. I don't want to bother them, but they seem to be doing okay. You guys are all right. Here's another nice view of the Pyramid Island over there. And then just to the right there in the middle of the frame, that's Anaho Island. That's the big island with a name, the biggest island on the lake, and the only one that you really see on the maps. And the pyramid rock there is, I believe, it may be attached to the shoreline, so it's not actually an island. Here's a good one. No Burning Man trash. Obviously, the Burning Man's a big deal, and those folks end up with a ton of garbage, and I understand that they try to dump it off as they're heading out, and this might be one of the places they see, you know, a dumpster, and that's a great place to leave their stuff. So this next area is called Pelican Point, and this is the first place that I've seen that I've noticed some other campers, and I can tell you why. It's pretty obvious, and that is that it's a paved road that goes into here, so you can see these folks with the larger RVs and trailers and whatnot don't have any trouble camping here. And it's pretty nice also. It's kind of pretty. There's a huge parking lot over to the right. It must be a popular boat launch area as well. I'm just going to show you really quickly this very large parking area. Yeah, there's a paved boat ramp that goes down there, a couple of docks. And this is the parking area. So you can, obviously this is where you park your boat and your trailers, huge area. So this must be like a really popular spot. And I'm actually not going to go down there where the campers are. I don't need to go down there. But if you have a rig that doesn't want to go on dirt, then this is going to be your go-to point, obviously. Okay, if you look over there to the right, you can see there's an outhouse down there, and there's a bay, and that's called Windless Bay. So it must get a little protection from Pelican Point because the bay kind of comes in. So that might be a good place to be on a windy day. I'm not going to go in there because I want to keep the program moving here. Okay, I believe this is the Spider Point area. Looking down below me, that area with the tree looks really nice. I might want to stop there and camp. This looks like a beautiful beach here. And I kind of wish I was down on that road, but I think I can get down there. All right, we did a little crest there, and now we come over the crest. And the next one is Spider Point. I'm not sure which one is Spider Point. There's a little jetty out there ahead. I think it might be that larger of the two jetties. But this is a beautiful bay here. You can see down below is the dirt road, so we can certainly take that road if we wanted to. All right, well, we're now at the point where the pavement ends, which is kind of interesting. And this one is called Warrior Point. And it is one of the last ones. There's a few more after the dirt starts. Yeah, this is Warrior Point Beach. So there's a bunch of them together. There's Spider Point, then there's Shot Dog, Warrior Point Beach, and then one called 9 Mile. And then the final one is Monument Rock. But it looks pretty barren out there. Maybe I'll just cruise this dirt road and see what this is like. This is really pretty through here. It's kind of treacherous though, to be honest. Kind of close to the edge here. I'm not sure about this. Oh boy. This is a little weird. Kind of off camber and a horrible hill on the left. It's probably okay, but I don't know if I want to do this. Oh man. Honestly, I think I'm going to pass. It's pretty off camber. I think it's doable, but oh my God, the consequences of tumbling down that hill would be pretty awful. So we're going to back up. See if I can get back to that campground another way. I'm going to have to go all the way past it and then come in from the south, I believe. All right, so I realize you haven't seen my mug for a while, so I figured I'd do a selfie here with Pyramid Lake in the background. So what happened on that off-camber thing is it just looked too risky. The consequences, if something happened, would be not only totaling the van, but probably totaling myself. So it just wasn't worth it. So I elected to backtrack. So now we're back on the road and we're backtracking, and we're going to try to find that other campground that I saw that looks really cool, except instead of trying to approach it from the north, we're going to try to approach it from the south. So it's a little bit of a drive back, but that's fine. And hopefully we'll find success this time. So let's go check it out. Okay, by golly, I think I found the road. I'm not sure yet, but this looks right. I had to backtrack. I missed it. I passed. I went too far. And then I turned in on a road, and the road was too rough. So I turned back, and now I'm trying again. I've been looking over the edge, and I think this is the right road. And it does not look bad, so I think I'm going to be able to get to my camping spot after all. I was kind of giving up on it, which kind of bummed me out because I really like that spot. I have my heart set on it. And I was ready to move on, but then I saw this road, so. Hallelujah, folks, I found it. There's the Sprinter on the road. There's the lake. I'm going to pan around. And there's the spot down there with the tree. And this is the road that we need to continue down, and it's a nice road, so we've got this under control. It took a little bit of exploring, but I finally found the road that was going to take me into the campground. If you look way in the distance, you can see the lone tree there and the white outcropping of the tufa. There's another large tufa that you can see on the left there. And this road, it looks pretty good, but it got a little bit rough, and I bounced around. There was also a lot of junctions, so I had to kind of decide which junction to take. That Y back there also went to the same place. And it might have been a smoother road than this one, because there was this section in the middle here that got pretty rough. But once again, you can see the tree and the campsite down there, so I'm getting close. And the van made it just fine. You can see it bouncing around a little bit. And then I approached the campsite, and I was pretty excited because it was really a beautiful spot. Here I'm rolling into the spot, and there's a few different places you can stay. I thought about staying under the tree, but then I decided to just get a little bit closer to the water and cruise down to this location here. And this is an overhead shot that you can see the lay of the land. It's just an absolutely beautiful campsite, and it just might be the best one on the lake. I don't know, but I was pretty pleased with it. In the evening, I walked down to the beach and took a walk out to the point that you can see as the land curves out to the left there, and there's a nice view of the lake. All right, folks, it took a little effort, but we got here. This place is absolutely gorgeous. I think of all the campsites that I've looked at in my travels today, this is probably the best one. So I'm really grateful that I was able to get here. It took a little doing. That road in was a little bit rough, but it was fine. And I'm camped here next to these tufas, as you can see. And then over there is the tree that we saw from the road. And you can see the line of the road up above there. And of course, there's the van. And I'm going to level that out a little bit. It's a little bit off camber, but we'll get get that level and it'll be all good. And then there's some more tufas, and you can see the tufas up high. I kept talking about the fact that the water line is way up there, and the tufa like that was underwater, obviously, so that was way back in the day. And I can't remember if I mentioned it, but the deepest point of Pyramid Lake is about 500 feet, and I think it was, back in the day, it was 900 feet deep, so the water level was 400 feet higher than it is now. So there's more to come, so stick around if you want to see the rest of this. We're going to enjoy the evening here, and it's going to be pretty nice. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Pyramid Lake after a great night of sleep. I am sorry to report to those of you Sasquatch fans that I did not hear any water babies last night, and I'm still alive. Beautiful night of sleep. It's morning on the lake, and the campsite continues to be wonderful. I'm going to hang out here this morning for a bit. I am probably not going to continue north on the dirt road on the west side of the lake. Partially because it doesn't look that interesting to me, and I think we've seen a lot of the lake. A couple things to note. One is, along the lake for the entire length of the west side, there is some sort of dirt road generally, so it's easy to get around on the lake and pretty much get wherever you want. Some of the roads are a little rough, and some of them are pretty easy to negotiate with the van. Of course, be careful getting stuck. I think I lucked out yesterday and stopped driving at the right time and was able to dig myself out and use the traction boards, so that was a real blessing. I'm glad I'm not still down there trying to get out. But I'm going to move on to the Black Rock Desert, see what we discover over there. And until next time, thanks for watching.